Good morning, all of you. Today we are going to start lecture number 15 and 16. The chapter is mainly dealing with the Indian Biological Diversity Act 2002, its silent feature, and one of the international treaties, that is International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture. Students, in this course, whatever the short forms are there, these short forms are so much important for exam point of view, because one question is there in your objective to write down the long form of the abbreviation. So you should remember the long form of these abbreviations. First one is the ITPGRFA, that is International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture, and next one is the Indian Biological Diversity Act. So first of all, I am giving you an idea what we learn in this chapter. First one, the ITPGRFA. First, the Convention on Biodiversity happened in 1993, and that conventions suggests that there should be a act in each and every country to conserve the biological diversity of their nation. So first of all, a convention is held at Rio de Janeiro, and that convention suggested to each and every country that you should made an act to conserve the biodiversity of your nation. So those who are the those who are the members of convention, that countries, by keeping the outline of that convention, CBD, the India form an act to conserve the biodiversity, that is Indian Biological Diversity Act. So it is the three-tiered system which works in India. First one is the national tier, then the state tier, and third one is the local tier. So it works at three levels. The Indian Biodiversity Act, it works at three levels. First one is the national level, to exchange the germplasm in between the countries, and then next one is the state biodiversity board. It works at a state level, and third one is the biological biodiversity management committees, which works at a local level, means which works at a village level or panchayat level or municipal level. Okay, these are the three level systems of Indian Biodiversity Act. So first of all, I am giving one example why we should learn ITPGRFA, or why we should learn Indian Biodiversity Act. Because see, day by day, what happening in India and all the countries, that due to the deforestation, whatever the useful species are there, or useful animals are there, that are going to be extinct here due to the deforestation, due to the increasing population. So there is a need to conserve that biodiversity and to use the biodiversity, sustainable use of that biodiversity. What is the sustainable use? Sustainable use means using the that much amount of that biodiversity, and by keeping a view, and by keeping a view of next generation. Do not use whole biodiversity. While utilizing biodiversity, we should use the sufficient amount of that biodiversity by keeping the view, by keeping the use of upcoming generations in the mind, is called as a sustainable use. Okay? So in this chapter, I am giving one example that what happened before that international treaty comes into the existence. For example, in one nation develop a breed of buffalo that produces more milk with more fat. So that nation, what that nation does, that nation make a trade of that breed with the low developing countries rather than the developed countries. So whatever the trade is going there, that does not happening at a equal level. So what the country the country who develop the breed, what they think that if I sell my breed to the developed country, then that country become economically stable, and if I sold that breed to the less developing country, then the economy of my nation does not affected. So it is not fair. Okay, the trade should be takes place between all the countries. So that treaty, what that treaty told that if you developed any breed of buffalo or any variety, it should be sold with the developing country and with the developed country, because they give some rules and regulation for that. Okay. Some rules and regulations is formed there, and that they said that whatever the breed is formed, tradable with the developed country also and developing country also. They put some norms there that if you are using the breed of that nation, then you have to pay some benefit sharing to that nation. Likewise, the same rules is given for the utilization of that whatever the biological diversity of that nation. Okay, so we are going to learn this chapter. Then, first of all, the Convention on Biodiversity. What is the history of that convention? In June 1992, the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development was held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and it was also called as a Earth Summit. The Earth Summit is held at Rio de Janeiro in 1992 in Brazil, and one of the major outcome of that UNICED was that the Convention on Biodiversity. It leads to the Convention on Biodiversity. The Convention on Biodiversity deals with the sovereign rights of the nation over their genetic resources. Sovereign rights means the rights of the nation on their diversity. There is no right of other nation on that available biological diversity. So that convention said that whatever the biodiversity of that nation is there is only sovereign rights of nation over that genetic resources. The CBD had come into the enforcement in December 1993 as a first legal mechanism dealing with the biological resources. So what this slide indicate that the first whatever the conference on United Nations Conference on Environment and Development was held in Rio de Janeiro, that is called as a Earth Summit, and that Earth Summit results into the Convention on Biological Diversity, and that biological diversity deals with the sovereign rights of the nation over the genetic resources, and this CBD come into the come into the force in December 1993. These years are so much important for your competitive examination also. So CBD come into the enforcement in December 1993, and the formation starts in June 1992. So this is the important objective for exam point of view, that is the CBD come into the enforcement in 1993 as a first legal mechanism. Then in respect of biological resources, earlier status according to the FAO, before the CBD, what is their status according to the Food and Agriculture Organization undertaking on the plant genetic resources? That is it is a non-legally binding mechanism, and that adhered to the 1983 that the plant genetic resources are the heritage of the mankind and should be made available without the restriction. So before the 1993, CBD Act is there. There is a one act which comes under the Food and Agricultural Organization, that is 1983, and that said that the plant genetic resources is the heritage of the mankind and it should be available without the restriction to any individual. But what the CBD said, that the CBD comes into the enforcement and they said that it is not heritage of the mankind. It is the sovereign. There should be the sovereign rights of the rights of the nation on that plant genetic resources, and it should not be easily traded. But the properties of the countries and therefore the tradable commodity. But as per the CBD, which comes into the force 1993 as a first legal mechanism dealing with the biological resources, are deemed not to be the heritage of the mankind but are the properties of the countries, and therefore it is a tradable commodities. So what they suggest, that what the CBD said, that before the CBD come into the existence, whatever the genetic resources of that particular nation, it is the heritage of the mankind. So any country, any individual of the other country can easily access the plant genetic resources. But according to the CBD, that said that it is a not heritage of the mankind. It is there is a sovereign rights of the nation on that plant genetic resources. So it is the property of the countries and therefore it is a easily tradable. It comes under the tradable communities. So in that way the CBD come into the existence, and the objectives of the CBD is that the conservation of the biological diversity, sustainable use of its components, and fair and equitable sharing of the benefits arising out from the utilization of the plant genetic resources. If any country is utilizing the India's plant genetic resources, then that country have to give the some share of benefits which arising from that genetic resources. And sustainable use means with keeping the view of upcoming generation without eroding that particular plant genetic resources by keeping mind in the upcoming generation. So it is called as a sustainable use of its components. Then the Indian Biodiversity Act, whatever the Biodiversity Act come into the India in 2002, which is based on that based on that Convention on Biodiversity Act, and the Indian Biodiversity Act have the same features, that is the conservation of the biodiversity, sustainable use of its components, and fair and equitable sharing of the benefits. Okay, these are the three features of the Indian Biodiversity Act. The Biodiversity Act 2002, it addresses the access to the genetic resources and knowledge by the foreign individual. It assesses the whatever the plant genetic resources present into the India by the foreign individual, institutions and the companies to ensure the equitable. It first it gives the access of plant genetic resources to the foreign individuals, institutions, companies, to ensure the equitable sharing of the benefits arising out from the use of the resources. And it is the three-tiered system, as I earlier told you, that it is the three-tiered structure. First one is the national, state, and the third one is the local. So national, first level is the National Biodiversity Authority, and which is related to the exchange of germplasm with the foreign institutions, individual and the companies. Okay, so the headquarter of National Biodiversity Authority is located at Chennai. This is important for objective point of view. And what it deals with the matter relating to the request by the foreign individual, institution and companies. The foreign institution, individual and companies, firstly, if they have to assess the plant genetic resources of India, then firstly they have to request the National Biodiversity Authority. If they give the permission to that foreign individual, then only he can assess the plant genetic resources. It supervises all the matters relating of the result of research by any foreigners. The work is not ended here by giving the plant genetic resources. After giving plant genetic resources of India to any foreign individual, then after that it also supervises all the matters relating to the whatever the research is going on and what the result they get from that plant genetic resources. So it supervises all the matters relating of the result of research or by any foreigner. The practice that are currently in use of agriculture, poultry, then animal husbandry and beekeeping are also exempted. If they use these plant genetic resources for agriculture, poultry, animal husbandry, beekeeping, then these are exempted without viewing the result of that research. It issued the guidelines for access to the biological resources, grant the approvals, regulations for fair and equitable benefit sharing. What the NBA does, it firstly gives the guidelines to the foreign countries for the access of biological resources. Then it gives after the request it grant the approval, and after that it regulate for the fair and equitable benefit sharing. These three works is done by the NBA. So when any foreigner want to take advantage of plant genetic resources present into the India, then that foreigner firstly have to make an application to the National Biodiversity Authority. After their approval, they can use the plant genetic resources of India, and NBA keep watching on the whatever the research is done by that foreigner on by using the plant genetic resources, and after that they claim for the benefit sharing, fair and equitable sharing, benefit sharing arising from that plant genetic resources. Now, it also advised the central government on the matters relating to the conservation of biodiversity, then to sustainable use and equitable sharing of benefits arising out from the utilization of biological resources. Another work done by the NBA is that it also gives the advice to the central government how to conserve the biological diversity related to the sustainable use of the components and equitable sharing of the benefits arising out from the utilization of the biological resources. It also advised the state governments in relation to the selection of important areas of biodiversity as a heritage site and measures for the management of such heritage sites. Heritage sites means those sites which are going to be extinct. So it also advise the state government for it advises the central government for the conservation, then sustainable use and equitable sharing, and it also advises the state government for the to locate the heritage site and do the management of that such heritage sites. Then next tier is the State Biodiversity Board. This long form is also important for your examination. State Biodiversity Board. State Biodiversity Board are to be created by the state government through the official notification. In India, in Maharashtra, there may be a State Biodiversity Board created by the Maharashtra government. But when we think about the National Biodiversity Board, then it is comes under the central level. Okay, so it deals with all the matters relating to the access by the Indians. As like if the foreigner have to access any plant genetic resources, then he have to give the application to the NBA. If in India any Indian want to access the plant genetic resources in between the state, then it deals with all the matter relating to the access by the Indian for the commercial purpose. The Indians who are assessing the genetic resources have to register and will not required to approval of the NBA. Only that Indian have to give the have to register his name to the state biodiversity. Have to register for the plant genetic resources to the NBA, but that particular Indian don't have to require approval from the NBA. Without getting the approval, he can assess. Only he have to give the intimation, he have to give the notice of utilizing the plant genetic resources. The act, and this act exempts the hakims where practitioners of Indian medicine system from intimating the state biodiversity board for the plant genetic resources. So firstly, if any person, sorry, here is here should be the SBB should be there. If any Indian have to assess the plant genetic resources, then he have to register for the state biodiversity boards, and he don't have to get the approval from the SBB. But without intimating or without registering the hakims were practitioners, they don't have to register for their utilization of the plant genetic resources to the state biodiversity board. They don't have to intimate the state biodiversity board for the utilization of the genetic resources. The constitution and the administrative and the financial composition of the SBB is same as that of the ENBA. Then whatever the administration and whatever the finance is going out in between in NBA and that of the ESBB are the same. Then the third one is the Biodiversity Management Committee. The institution of local self-government like the panchayat, municipals will be required to set up a biodiversity management committee in their respective areas to promote the conservation, then sustainable use. Also they do the work of documentation of biodiversity of their area, then preservation of the habitat, then conservation of the land races, then domesticated stocks, breeds, animals and microorganisms, and also chronicling the knowledge relating to the biodiversity. If they find something new, then they have to add the new knowledge to the original knowledge. So it is called as the chronicling the knowledge. Chronicling knowledge म्हणजे knowledge मध्ये भर पडणे. ठीक आहे. So whatever the BMCs are there, that is biodiversity management committees, which is present at the local levels, at a panchayat level, municipal levels. So they have to conserve the diversity of their area, then the sustainable use and the documentation of the biodiversity, also preserving the habitat, conservation of the land races, domesticated stocks, breeds, animals. They have to keep each and every records of their existing biodiversity of their area, and if they found new, then they have to add to its original knowledge. So chronicling the knowledge relating to the diversity, these works comes under the biodiversity management committees. Then National Biodiversity Authority, state biodiversity boards are required to consult with the BMCs on matters relating to the biological resources and the associated knowledge. Firstly, means see here the biodiversity management committees are at the local level, but while when the NBA and SBA required some of the biological diversities or the plant genetic resources, they firstly have to consult with the biodiversity management committees. So these are the three-tier system which comes under the Indian Biological Act, that is state biodiversity. First one is the National Biodiversity Authority, then State Biodiversity Board, then Biodiversity Management Committee. Okay. Then access to the biological resources. How to assess the biological resources of India? As per the Act, only Indian nation can use the biological resources freely, and if any foreigner is interested to carry out such activities as a research, commercial utilization, or if he have to do the biosurvey, or if he have to use the bioutilization relating to the biological resources occurring in India or the knowledge associated to, shall seek the prior approval by the NBA by filling an application. So, if any foreigner is intended to use the plant genetic resources which is exist in India, then he have to do the application. He have to take prior approval from the NBA by filling an application form. The person of the following categories required to take the approval of NBA for the use of use and for the use of biological resources. The person who is not citizen of India have to take the approval from NBA. The citizen of India but who is a non-resident of India, then he have to take the approval of the NBA. A corporate body, association or organization which is not registered in India or registered in India which has any non-Indian participation and its share capital or the management. So, if any corporate body, association or organization is there in India, but whatever the members of that organization are the non-Indians, or the corporation, association, on or the organization which is not registered in India, then in that case they have to take the approval from the NBA. The only situation in India that would require a permission of India, if in India, if the plant genetic resources is used in India, and in that case also they have to take the approval of the NBA when it is when the result of any research which is going on in the India which has made a use of the country biodiversity to be commercialized. If any project is ongoing in India and they are doing the research in that India, but if that research is commercialized to the other countries, in that case they have to take the approval of the NBA. When the result of the research are shared with any foreigner or the foreign institution, at that time the Indian institution who is working on that plant genetic resources have to take the approval of the NBA if they are sharing their result with the foreigners. When a foreign institution or the individual want to assist to the country biodiversity for undertaking the research, if any foreign institution is utilizing the biodiversity for undertaking the research, in that case also they have to intimate, they have to get approval from the NBA. Then the research activity, what is how that research activities with the foreign countries or Indian countries is happening there. The difference exists for the Indian and the foreigners regarding the research activities involving biological diversities or the biological resources. The Indian don't have to take a permission of NBA for utilizing the biological resources for the research purpose. The research carried out by the Indian person or the organization on biological resources are exempted even from the condition of prior intimation to the state biodiversity board. The Indians don't have to intimate the state biodiversity board. They only register about utilization of the biological resources, and they don't have to wait for the approval which coming from the SBA. However, no person shall without a previous approval of the NBA transfer the result of any research relating to the biological diversity occurring in or obtained from India for the monetary consideration otherwise to any foreigner. For this point indicate that point state that the person don't have to take the approval of the NBA. But if the whatever the material biological diversity he is using in India, but if he is sharing a result of his research with any foreigners, or if he commercialize that research, in that case he have to take approval from the NBA. The transfer does not include the publication of the research papers or the dissemination of the knowledge in any seminar or the workshop. The biological diversity, about the biological diversity, he don't have to publish this information about that biological diversities in any seminars, in any workshop, or he should not publish any paper on that in research paper. If there is a collaborative research project involving transfer or exchange of biological resources between government institutes and the institutes in the other countries, means institute, foreign institute, Then such collaborative research projects satisfied the conditions of approval by the policy guidelines of Government of India. If any collaborative work is there in India and in any foreign country, then that project have to be submitted to the Indian government, and if only the Indian government gives the green signal to that collaborative work, then and then only there will be the utilization of the biological resources for that collaborative work. Then benefit sharing, how the benefit is shared, which is coming out from that biological resources. The sharing of benefit arising from the research biosurvey, commercial utilization of biological resources carried out by foreigners should be determined through an application made to the NBA. The whatever the benefit arising from that research biosurvey, what content, how much benefit they are arising from the utilization of biological resources, the detail is given in that application form of NBA. This procedure is entirely different from one that is applicable to the Indian. In case of Indian, it is the State Biodiversity Board which has a jurisdiction. So when any Indian is using any plant genetic resources, then it comes under the SBB, that is State Biodiversity Board's jurisdiction. They don't have to pay any benefit to the SBB if the person who is utilizing the national biodiversity and he commercializing that the research of that biodiversity. In that case, the person should have to take the approval from the NBA, and at the same time, whatever the benefit he getting from that he's commercializing research, then the benefit they have to submit to the National Biodiversity Fund. Okay. The NBA shall ensure while granting the approval to the foreign individual that the fair and equitable benefit shares takes place between the foreigners and the local bodies concerned with the benefit claimers. If any foreigners is using the plant genetic resources, then the NBA gives the approval for that, and there is one binding that whatever the benefit they shared from that gain from that plant genetic resource utilization, they have to share this benefit with the local bodies and concerned with the benefits to the claimers. The benefit sharing can be in any way of the following. They can share the benefit by the following ways. First, they have the joint ownership with the IPR and the NBA, where the benefit claimers are identified to such benefit claimers. First, whatever the IPR intellectual property rights are there, national biodiversity authorities are there, they firstly identified the benefit claimers, and that benefit is deposited to the benefit claimers. Then transfer of technology. If they found something by utilizing the plant genetic resources, if they found any technology by utilizing the plant genetic resources, then that country have to transfer a technology which is based on the plant genetic resources. Then location of the production R&D unit in such areas which will be facilitate the better living standard to the benefit claimers. When any country, if any foreign country utilizing the plant genetic resources of India, then that country have to build up their production unit, R&D unit in that areas where they utilizing that plant genetic resources. The Association of Indian Scientists, benefit claimers and the local peoples with R&D in the biological resources and biosurvey and bioutilization. There should be a association between the Indian scientists, benefit claimers and the local people with R&D in the biological resources. There should be whatever the R&D work is going on biological resources, biosurveys, there should be an association between the Indian scientists, then benefit claimers also, and the local peoples also. The payment of monetary compensation and other non-monetary benefits to the benefit claimers as the ENBA may deem fit. The whatever the content how to deposited by the beneficiary, they should be follow the guidelines given by the NBA. In situation where any amount of money is ordered by a way of benefit sharing, the NBA may direct the amount to deposited to the National Biodiversity Fund, and which is utilized for the conservation of biodiversity. So whatever the benefit is arising from the utilization of plant genetic resources, then that benefit sharing is the NBA directed that benefit sharing should be deposited to the National Biodiversity Fund, or whether if the foreigners utilizing the plant genetic resources, then they have to transfer the technology, or they have to build up their production center in the areas where they utilizing plant genetic resources. And if they build up a production unit, then they should include the Indian scientists. They should include the Indian scientists in their R&D research project, and the monetary compensation. If the compensation in the form of money is should be as directed by the NBA. Then the next part of this chapter is international. The next part of this chapter is International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture. The long form is very much important. This is the treaty. This is the treaty means it is the करार. ठीक है, हा करार आहे जो की प्लांट जेनेटिक रिसोर्सेस फॉर फूड अँड ॲग्रिकल्चर साठी होता. तर करार कधी केला जातो? व्हेन वी हॅव टू डू द ट्रेड इन बिटवीन द कंट्रीज. सो इथं जो काही ट्रेड होणार आहे तो रिलेटेड टू द फूड अँड ॲग्रिकल्चर होणारा ट्रेड आहे. सो त्यांनी एक करार देशांमध्ये काही व्हरायटीज किंवा काही ब्रीड्स जे काही ट्रेडिंग होणार आहे याला सुपरवाइज करण्यासाठी जो करार बनवला आहे त्याला आपण म्हणत असतो इंटरनॅशनल ट्रीटी ऑन प्लांट जेनेटिक रिसोर्सेस फॉर फूड अँड ॲग्रिकल्चर. ओके, and the objective is same as that of the CBD, and the CBD, that is the conservation, sustainable use of plant genetic resources, and it also see here first point, at the international level the efforts have been ongoing to develop a system that allow collection, conservation, sustainable use of plant genetic resources that results into a various international agreements which facilitates worker to access available genetic resources against the sovereign right in the CBD. What the ITPGRFA suggests that any individual of any nation can access plant genetic resources of any nation. There will not be a sovereign right on that plant genetic resources as it is suggested by the CBD. One of the international agreement includes the international undertaking on plant genetic resources for food and agriculture 1983. Later on it takes a shape of International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture in 2001, and this treaty come into the existence in 2004. First of all, it is the international undertaking. It is a not treaty. It takes a shape of treaty in 1983. It is only undertaking. It is an international undertaking, and it takes a shape of treaty in 2001, and this treaty comes into the enforcement in 2004. Okay, so the event is as like in 1993 the convention is come into the existence, and after that convention the treaty is come into the existence in 2004. The international undertaking on plant genetic resources for food and agriculture adopted by the member countries of FAO on non-binding agreement to promote the conservation, exchange and the use of plant genetic resources for food and agriculture. Whatever the difference is that first of all the ITPGRFA is the IUPGRFA in the year 1983, and it takes a shape of international treaty in 2001, and after that it comes into the enforcement in 2004. But whatever the difference in between the IU and the IT is that it is a non-binding agreement. This is non-binding agreement and this is a binding agreement. Okay. So it is the non-binding agreement on the whatever the member countries of Food and Agriculture Organization is there. There is the member countries of FAO. If they have to get the membership of IUPGRFA, then they can take it. Otherwise, they cannot take it. So it is a non-binding agreement on the member countries of FAO. Okay, on to promote the conservation, exchange, use of genetic resources for food and agriculture. In short, there is no compulsion on all the members of FAO to follow the guidelines given by IUPGRFA. But the commission on okay, then it is the commission on plant genetic resources administered by IUPGRFA till it took the shape of ITPGRFA. IUPGR initially allowed the free flow of genetic material to stop the uncontrolled genetic erosion, but was later revised to allow for plant breeders' rights, sovereign right of the individual. Okay, whatever the IUPGRFA said that it is a freely accessible. The plant genetic resources are freely accessible between the countries, and so it is the heritage of the mankind. But the ITPGRFA what it suggests that it is a binding, it is legally binding mechanism on the Food and Agriculture Organization. The member countries have to follow the guideline given by the ITPGRFA, and it is a compulsion on that all the members. So what that ITPGRFA suggests that there is only the sovereign rights of the nation on that plant genetic resources, and what IUPGRFA suggests that it is the heritage of the mankind. Anyone don't have to take a permission of any nation. Without taking the permission of any nation, they can utilize the plant genetic resources of any nation. But whatever the ITPGR come into the existence, they said that there should be the sovereign rights of the nations on that plant genetic resources. So international treaty on PGRFA is the new name of IUPGRFA, which was renegotiated to bring the harmony with the CBD. It works with the CBD and it makes the harmony with the CBD, because the CBD also suggests that on plant genetic resources there is a sovereign right of that nation on that plant genetic resources, and IUPGRFA said that it is the heritage of the mankind, so anyone can utilize the plant genetic resources of any nation. So the conversion takes place between the IUPGR converted into the ITPGRFA in 2004. It comes into the enforcement and it works with the harmony with the CBD. The rules, the treaty is also suggested that there is a sovereign right of the nation on the plant genetic resources, and CBD also told that the same. But IUPGR suggested the different, that there is it is the heritage of the mankind. So ITPGRFA, also called as the International Seed Treaty, and that was approved by FAO in 3rd November 2001 and come into the force in 2004. Okay, it comes into the force in 2004. So another name for this treaty is the International Seed Treaty. Okay, it is only understanding. It is an international undertaking. It is only undertaking is there, and it is non-binding mechanism, legally not binding, but it is the legally binding mechanism on the member countries of the Food and Agriculture Organization. Okay. So what are the different objectives of ITPGRFA? First one is the conservation and sustainable use of genetic resources for food and agriculture. Then fair and equitable sharing of benefit arising out from the use of harmony with the CBD for food and agriculture. Security. These objectives being achieved by closely linking of treaty with the Food and Agriculture Organization and CBD. The ITPGRFA works with the closely linking with the Food and Agriculture Organization and the Convention on Biodiversity. The centerpiece of the treaty is the multilateral system for access benefit sharing, which facilitates the access and genetic resources for food and agriculture in returns of benefit sharing. Firstly, it is the multilateral system which is for access of plant genetic resources for food and agriculture, then for benefit sharing and sustainable use also. Why these 2 points is in a convention of biodiversity. In convention of biodiversity, the all the plant genetic resources, all the ecosystem is included there. All the biological things are included in the convention of biodiversity. But in case of ITPGRFA, only the things, only the genetic resources which are related to the food and agriculture are included in that. The varieties of any nation which have to be shared with the other country. These things are included into the ITPGRFA. The fund is also provided through the commercial utilization of plant genetic resources for food and agriculture to the multilateral system of MLs. Those who are utilizing the plant genetic resources for food and agriculture, they have to deposit the fund to the multilateral system of the ITPGRFA. Important 64 most important food and forages are included under the multilateral system, out of which 35 food species and 29 forest species are included under the ITPGRFA. As many 110 countries are currently member of ITPGRFA, in addition to the 11 International Agriculture Research Center for seed collection under the multilateral system of access and benefit sharing. Here 110 countries are the members of ITPGRFA and 11 international agriculture research centers are also included in the ITPGRFA for the collection of the seeds and to carry out the access and benefit sharing. And then the treaty addresses the question of traditional knowledge, therefore makes a provision of farmers' right. It recognizes the following rights. So under the ITPGRFA, it facilitates the farmers' right also. The right to save, use, exchange, sell farm saved seed and other propagating material. Then it also provides the right to fair and equitable sharing of benefit arising from the use of plant genetic resources for food and agriculture. Then right to participate in national decision making process about the plant genetic resources and protecting the traditional knowledge. These rights are offered by the ITPGRFA. These farmers' rights are facilitated by the ITPGRFA. So this is a governing body. Treaty has the 3 meetings in 2006, 2007, 2009. These meetings discuss about the funding strategy, compliance, and the sustainable use. The implementation of the farmer right, relationship with the global crop diversity trust, implementation of the multilateral system for the access and benefit sharing. Then the discussion is made on that points in 2006, 2007 and 2009 meetings. The treaty noticed that due to the heavy damage to the germplasm collection was caused in the Afghanistan, Iraq, Philippines due to the variety of reasons, causing the permanent loss of the valuable plant genetic resources. And the treaty tried to force these countries to open their seed banks in their countries, and the meeting is agreed that there won't be an agriculture in 15 years unless we have to exchange a germplasm. There will not be a agriculture in upcoming 15 years unless exchange of germplasm. So in this meeting, what they discuss the strategies, funding strategies, compliance and sustainable use. Then about the farmers' right, their roles in the global diversity, biological diversity. Then they observed that they noticed that heavy damage of germplasm takes place in the Afghanistan, Iraq and Philippines due to the variety of reasons and causing the permanent loss, extinction of the plant genetic resources. And so that ITPGRFA forced these countries to open their own seed banks to conserve the whatever the plant species remaining there, and they agreed that there would be no agriculture in 15 years unless we exchange those germplasm. So ITPGRFA, what they suggest, that there should be an exchange between the international exchange between the plant genetic resources which are present in their countries. So this is the treaty, ITPGRFA. This is the treaty which do the trading of plant genetic resources between the countries, and CBD is the Convention on Biological Diversity, which comes into the existence in 1993. Then ITPGRFA comes into the force in 2004, and the National Biodiversity Act, that is Indian Biological Diversity Act, come into the existence in 2002. For the ITPGRFA deals with the working of conservation, sustainable use and benefit sharing of plant genetic resources related to the food and agriculture only, while the CBD deals with the conservation, sustainable use and equitable benefit sharing of all the plant genetic resources. And Indian Biological Diversity Act deals with the conservation, benefit sharing and sustainable use of nation's plant genetic resources. This is the main difference which present between the three types. Okay, so here we ended our last lecture of intellectual property, right? The in next slide I am only the one part is skipped by me of earlier chapters, that is what are the procedure to register the copyright, to register trademark, to register industrial design. So in the next slide I am covering these three procedures which is related to your intellectual property right chapter, and this is important chapter because last year there is a 2 question on that, that is write down the procedure to register the geographical indication, to register the industrial design. Thank you.